Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we're going to talk about the right way to roleplay with DM James and his great video where he got every single thing wrong about Strixhaven, and he got everything wrong about Baristas. Today we're going to talk about Baristas and Dungeons & Dragons and coffee and Dungeons & Dragons and coffee experts, right? And we're going to talk about escapism versus expansion, right? And we're going to talk about not understanding what Dungeons & Dragons is, right? All right, so DM James did this great video where he just spouted a whole bunch of wrong stuff about Strixhaven and just wonderfully encapsulated the entire D&D not communities and D&D then communities understanding of Strixhaven, right? First of all, I am very confident that DM James doesn't own Strixhaven and hasn't read Strixhaven, right? But he wants to talk about it, right? And the reason why would he want to talk about it? Because it's the new hotness, right? And on Adventure or Conquer a King, there is no new hotness, right? This is super old, it's an emulated game copying Dungeons & Dragons 1E, and there's nothing happening on that thing. Nobody cares, right? So he wants to talk about what people care about, what actually matters, which is the D&D's latest book, right? And which matters, and the whole world talks about. D&D Now talks about it, D&D Then talks about it, D&D Not talks about it, because it matters. And D&D Then and D&D Now's content, this is why you have so many D&D Then and D&D Not commenters talking about D&D Now, D&D 5th edition, because their stuff literally doesn't get any play, right? It doesn't get any traction. Nobody cares about it, right, at the macro level, right? So D&D, DM James is, in my opinion, speaking from shocking ignorance, representing entire community of people speaking from ignorance and going, I didn't buy it, but I don't like it, and D&D 5th sucks. I haven't read a D&D 5th book in 6 months or 12 months. I've just listened to a whole bunch of commentary, but I can tell you from my ignorant position that it's not good. Really, your show's shockingly wrong, right? So, all right, let's get into this. So DM James graciously invited comment on his wrong opinions, and now I'm going to give them. So let's talk about just the barista part, okay? So D&D 5th edition just got, a ton of internet traction and internet talk, and on every segment of TTPR FRBG. Got it on the D&D Now, all the 5e Dungeon Masters talking about it. Got it on the D&D Then, all the D&D 1e, 2e, 3e, 4e Dungeon Masters talking about it, and D&D Not, all the copy games of D&D 1e and 2e. All their game masters were talking about it, right? And what they were talking about is oh my gosh, Strixhaven made a Strixhaven Starbucks adventure. They get all kerfuffled, and they're like, how can people just play as a barista, right? And I'm going to explain to you. And so very, very graciously, DM James is like, what am I missing? This is only losers would do this. What am I missing, right? I'm going to tell you what you're missing. You're missing so much, DM James, and I can't wait to tell you what you're missing. All right, here we go, because you invited it, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to do the same. I invite, comment back on what I'm saying. So here's what you don't understand about Dungeons & Dragons and Baristas. All right, so one of the things, so let's get into it. All right, so why would it be fun to play a barista? Well, one of the things I think you might not know, DM James, I'm not sure what your job is, right? But a few years back, I worked for 8 years for a global bank, right? A very, large global bank, right? And what I did every day was I went in, to work, and I worked on multiple products. I worked on literally 15 different products at the same time. I worked with a globally distributed team, and we built small improvements on 15 different products at once, right? And those products were distributed all over the world, okay? And you know what never happened? I never once saw a customer use my product, right? Not once. So my work was dramatically removed from the customer and the customer's experience. I literally never saw them use the product, okay? And this was a great source of discontentment for me, right? I love, and the reason why was I have never been a barista, okay? But But I would go every day literally to a Starbucks on my work break. On my break, I would walk to this very nice Starbucks. Literally, they probably spent $500,000 building this Starbucks. They built it in this really nice, like condo center, and it was beautiful. Like it had like like a sailor theme. It was really really nice, right? And I would go, and the baristas there, and they would say, "Hi, Scott, what would you like?" And then I would order one of their $6 or $7 crazy drinks that they had just introduced that week. And then they would say, "We'll get that right up for you, Scott." And they knew my name, right? And they would make my drink, and I would watch, and they would use their expertise to make my drink. And then, and actually I would say, "Oh, here's the $7, right?" And they'd say, "Thank you very much, Scott." And then I would pick up the drink, right? And I'd be like, "Thanks," right? And then I would go and I would sit down and I would drink it, and I would just sigh with relief, right? Like, ooh, right? And that barista literally, would see me enjoy the drink. And I would say, and I'd just hold up my cup and, tip to their expertise, and be like, "Hey, thank you for greeting me. Thank you for making this really nice break in my day, right? I'm working hard, and this is going to be 45 minutes of my day where I just get to enjoy this drink, this $7 coffee, right? And I can enjoy your expertise. You have crafted this product. I am enjoying this product. You are seeing me enjoy this product. I am thanking you multiple times, and you have a smile on your face because the work you did brought joy to the customer, right?" Now, I'll tell you right now, that experience that these baristas have every single day, knowing that the work they do matters, that it was successful, that seeing almost the entire transaction. Now, of course, the beans and like the cup come in externally, but they get to see, me asking for what I want, right? Me paying the money, right? Me getting the product, me enjoying the product. I say thank you to them. They say thank you to me, right, for the pay. There's so much joy in that. It is a celebration of America. It is a celebration of capitalism. It is a celebration of simple human joys. So what you are missing is that there are people who get to see the work they do make people happy within 5 minutes, and it is a conga line of joy. And I will tell you right now, I have my skill set is so unique, right, that it is almost impossible that I will ever see customers using the product within 5 minutes of me making it, right? That is a unique joy in life that I will never return to because my skill set is so arcane and so specific, right? And because our world has changed so much. But when I go into Dungeons and Dragons, right, a lot of people think that Dungeons and Dragons is escapism. It's not escapism. It's expansion, right? I have moved past a point in my life where I will ever see someone enjoy the product I have made for them within 10 minutes of me making it, right? And like, the other thing is, when I would drink my coffee, it was, they could see the joy that this simple action they had taken had brought me. I didn't need to say, "This is good," right? They could literally just see me close my eyes and enjoy this and take a break from my labors, and that their specific labor had brought me joy. I desperately miss that, right? But in Dungeons and Dragons, I can have it. And it's not escapism, it's expansion. Dungeons and Dragons is expanding my life and saying, you no longer have this in your IRL, but you can have this in this other world you live in with this other identity that you have, right? Like my father, right? He's never played Dungeons and Dragons. His work was his work, and that's all he got, right? Like, he couldn't expand his world through additional identities, right? And this is what you're missing, DM James. You don't understand the simple joy of the simple, wonderful, beautiful process of human beings connecting to each other and giving joy, right? And the reality is that is impossible for me to ever gain again, because my skill set is so arcane, so specific, right? And that it guarantees I'm almost never going to see a customer use my product in real time within 10 minutes of me making the change. It's just never going to happen, right? But Dungeons and Dragons is not escapism. It's expansion of our lives. And in a way that no other human beings have ever had, right? This idea that we can live 100 lives, speak with 100 mouths if we're a player, and you could take that to 1,000 if you're a dungeon master, right? This is truly incredible, and the magnitude and the importance of this is what you're missing. You don't understand that Dungeons & Dragons is not escapism. It is expansion. And for those who play Dungeons & Dragons and run Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and you're 100% right, you're never going to see anything I'm talking about within Adventure Conquer King, because it literally doesn't have the capacity for it, because it's a innovative copy game, right? And the persons who are making it are never going to give you anything useful or innovative, because they're literally copiers, right? Like, so you're never going to see this transformative, useful celebration of capitalism and Americanism and just human joy in your old crusty D&D not games. That's what you're missing, right? Is that D&D now, because it engages with everything that's awesome about Dungeons & Dragons, and it engages with our current culture, is an engine for expansion. Not like Adventure Conquer King, which is just a simple, crusty instrument of escapism that's used really to emulate killing, right? Like, and so the reality is, what you're seeing with Strixhaven and what you're seeing with the Barista adventure is a bold statement that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is something your game, Adventure Conquer King, and all the D&D not copy games is never going to accomplish. It's never going to change the hearts and minds. It's never going to improve you as a person, right? Because it's limited and small, right? But with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, even the idea of a Strixhaven Barista is huge and voluminous and joyful and wonderful and better. That's what you're missing. Well, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.